Hello, friends and relatives. Well, I am going to share a series of star people experiences that I've had, mixed in with some UFO philosophy, what's going on, consciousness, and the belief, and such things. But I've had many experiences through most of my adult life. But as a child, I had dreams of the UFO people. And yeah, you know, it's a used to be a controversial issue. Now it's pretty well accepted around the world. The some time ago, all the major countries had released their military, Air Force, UFO, what do you call them? Their documents, their declassified. The information has been declassified, but it's classified for many years. Well, the United States has finally done it in this past year or so. They have released their UFO sightings. And of course, US would be last. Hold out. So it's common knowledge, the what is the new Webb, not the Hubble, but the Webb, James Webb satellite, witnesses is able to view 16 billion light years away. You say, what? 16 billion light years. Okay. Who can compute that? So they said they estimate there's 200 million galaxies and 200 million stars in each galaxy. So that's a lot. So to believe there's no other intelligent life is crazy, 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 crazy. But it's just society that we live in that has wanted to keep the lid on all kinds of things that are of the otherworldly origin. I'm dealing with mosquitoes. I'm near a pond, so I'm using my essential oils, hoping that lavender, I'm hoping that is helping. Yeah. When I was a child, I had a recurring dream. When I was young, I would say under 10, I had a recurring dream that I walked outside. And I was a dreamer. I was always a dreamer, a lot of nightmares as a child. But this time I went outside, same dream, and I looked up in the sky, and there was UFOs everywhere. Every size, shape, color you could imagine. And some of them were way out there, and some of them were, there was something in front of me, right in front of me, the size of a football. And I wasn't afraid at all. It was fascinating to me. I'm like, oh my God, this is fascinating. And I had that recurring dream for many times, I believe. Well, with age, you forget all about all that. And it wasn't until I started traveling with Mary Thunder, and she was traveling, speaking around the country, and they took me in, and there was 2 other people with her, so with me there was 4, and we would travel to do lectures at colleges, or churches, or go to reservations, or talk to the communities. And she was kind of a spokesman for her tribe. She was a sun dancer, and she was sent out by her elders to share the wisdom, share the knowledge, share the Chinoopa Wakan peace pipe and sweat lodge ceremonies. As a woman, she was one of the cutting edge people doing that in the early 80s, mid 80s. So kudos to her, to all trails she cut for behalf of women, behalf of half breeds that were sent out by the elders to teach. All the elders were all the people that of age that had learned the path were the prophecy was to take the wisdom of the native people out to the world. And only a certain percentage were successful at that, but some didn't want to. And there was all the elders that she had that we followed were what we call four race elders. They didn't see any color. They just shared the wisdom, shared the truth, shared the ceremonies to help people awaken and find their way back to the earthy ways and a spirituality that was very it was a earth-based technology that helped people, helped and healed. So I'm traveling with them, and I'm 22 years old. At night, all of a sudden, Mary Thunder sees something in the sky, and she says, "Sparky, document this. There's a red and green light, and it's traveling northeast, and I can feel it. It's a craft." And I'm like, "What?" And Sparky pulls out this big old notebook. Her name's Sparky, this girl. She was one of Thunder's main helpers. And she documents, she starts, and I look in there, and there's all these documentations. There's all these sightings over the time period as they travel. I'm like, are you kidding me? Oh my God. And that's when I started realizing that, well, they believed it. And then the story started from her elders. She had been taught and awakened and had knowledge of, and that the most of the native tribes of America believe that they're descendants originally from the Pleiadian Seven Sisters star cluster system, and that they say they are our ancestors. And so her elders she'd seen ships around sweat lodges before and sacred ceremonies, such things. So so then I knew. So it actually started activating me to open up. 1987 was a really powerful time. It was called the harmonic convergence. It was configuration of planets. There were 7 planets lined up. August 1987. There were 7 planets lined up in fire, and there was a supernova that year. It was a birth of a star, ending of a star, I'm not sure, but it was very important to Native people. Halley's Comet was shortly, a few months before that, and that was important. I mean, they understand these significant celestial events. They carry things. They carry codes. They carry messages. They carry consciousness, awakening for humanity and the earth. So we had gone to a gathering, and we met an elder named Running Water. He was a Mojave medicine man, and he did a talk, and she said, "I've seen him. I met him before. I met him in Dallas years ago, and he told me that he looked at me and he says, some of us are star commanders on other levels of consciousness." He looked right at her, pointed. He said, some of us are star commanders on other levels of consciousness. And she, of course, she had no idea what to make of that. She's looking around. I think he's looking at me. And so in this talk he did at this, it was an Indian conference. It was called Traditional Indian Medicine Conference, Fresno, California. It's all Native people and medicine men and women, and really incredible. And when he spoke, he told stories. He said that when they were kids, they used to watch the UFOs rise out of the Grand Canyon. That's where they're located, their tribe, that area. And while he was in there, I could see that there was a ceiling above him, and I could see there was a big, giant blue-purple circle of energy that was like a disc around him. It was like not a ball, or wasn't an aura, but it was up at the ceiling, and it went all the way around him, like 40 feet, 30 feet around diameter. And like, wow, that's so amazing. So she asked if we could eat with him. There was a place we could eat. So we sat down and ate with him, and she said, I want to show you my medicine and see what you think. And so we pulled out this box. It was about 5x5 wooden box. And we pulled out this obsidian head that we had got in Mexico. I'm going to backtrack. Earlier that year, several months, we had gone to Mexico for some amazing ceremonies. And we went to the Teotihuacan, which was the Great Pyramid near Mexico City. Pyramid of the Sun, Pyramid of the Moon, and second largest pyramid in the world. It's actually larger than the one in Egypt by sheer volume. And so, and we got up halfway, just her and I. She couldn't make it. She sent me to the top with burning the kapal, and she said, you're going to see something up there. And I went to the top, I burned it, and I was not a visionary then. I was not having any visions at that age. And I had a vision. I literally had a vision. And I won't tell the details other than I saw myself in the full regalia of that time. Honest to God. I looked at, I don't know if I closed my eyes. I don't know how I saw it. I guess it was my third eye. And I'm going to tell the rest of it, because it's so long ago. It's not like a medicine that's integrating. It's already in me. So I looked up and I saw a giant eagle coming. And this giant eagle came, and its claws looked right in its yellow eyes, and it just sunk its claws right in my shoulders. And it took me in the sky. And it just took me. It didn't hurt. It wasn't anything. It just like these huge wings, and we just headed out. And that was it. And of course, it was later that we had to analyze and interpret what it was. And we believe it was a past life at that time. And that was my death. Well, I mean, I didn't die by the eagle, but it was like symbolic of, leaving, having that lifetime and leaving by the eagle back to the universe. So when we came back down, it was very beautiful. I'm very grateful for every vision and experience I've ever had. So we came back down, and I got halfway down, and I was only up there seemed like 5 minutes or so, or 10 minutes, and come back down, and halfway down, and she says, she hadn't even finished a cigarette. She was a smoker. Hadn't even finished. She was sitting there. She was scared. She didn't want to go all the way up. She goes, I've been talking to this man here, this old Mexican man. He's telling me stuff. And I look around. At that point, there was nobody there. There was nobody around. There's people way down on the steps or at the top. So what man? She said, that man right there. He just walked. And there's no man there. It's like, okay. So we went down, and we saw some vendors were selling some crafts and all that, right? And there was all these carved obsidian things. And she says, look, it's the ancestors. Look. And we look down, and this little head shaped just like an ET head, just like all these pictures of ET with the big eyes and a round bulbous head, and it had a little face sat up. It's an ancestor. She's so excited. She said, we got to get one. She got to buy it. And so we brought that, and she was just fascinated with it. It was such a confirmation to her of something she had heard, knew, the elders, visions, and she gave it a name. She called it Enoch, because in the book of Enoch it's so mysterious, and they talk about flying discs and all these things. Uh, so back to the elder at the Indian conference back in it was in Fresno, California, several months later. So we sat down to lunch with him, and she had me sit in the middle, and she pulled out this head, and he said, "Ah," she said, he says, "the ancestors." And I'm looking at her, I don't know what's going on. I'm so new to all this stuff. It's like, oh my God. So he dunked his finger. I watched him in each, and in a glass of water, and he wiped every finger real slowly, carefully, prayerfully, before he touched it. Before he got a good look at it, observed it. He said, "Yeah, that's your protection. That's really good, really important." And he says, "Here's my protection." He pulls out this little pouch, sachet pouch, and he pulls out this incredible blue stone it was like super crystalline. It looked like it was super fragile, but it was so blue. He put it on the table, and the energy was so high between him and her and these medicines. I was like, oh my God, I can't take this. And so we were getting ready to go to do the harmonics. We were traveling. We were going to do the harmonic convergence ceremony in. We didn't know where to go. So she asked him, she says, as an elder, I want to ask you, where do you think we should go to do ceremony? Mount Shasta, or what do you think? And he immediately says, Pyramid Lake, Nevada. And we look at each other, Pyramid Lake, Nevada, what's that? I don't even know. That's all he said. He went on, and then he went on talking this whole other subjects. He just like a inspiration, intuition. So that was a beautiful meeting with that man's name, Running Water, Gabe Sharp. And so we did end up going to Pyramid Lake, and we had a couple of van loads of people. We were headed out to Sundance in Oregon that summer. Grandfather, Welsh Black Elk, and his wife, Gray Spotted Eagle, ran this beautiful Sundance. And so we camped at Pyramid Lake, and there's this great pyramid out in the middle. It's a huge rock. It's like a little island, but no one goes out there. It's like forbidden for all these strange reasons. And this is in the area of not far from Pyramid, Area 52, Area 51, Area 51. And so we're doing the ceremony. We got all these things set up, and there's about 12 of us. We're having a great time, drumming, singing, doing all these things. And it got dark out, and we had a fire. And I looked up in the sky. I just happened to look up, and I see a star. You can see all these stars. And I see this one star. And all of a sudden, six stars left it and went in all directions, just at a steady pace away from it. And I'm like, look, 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 look. And everybody looked up, and they just caught this moving away, out these stars. I was like, what the heck? But it was a single point, and it all left. I saw that with my own eyes. So then, incredible. So we go to the Sundance, and Mary Thunder's dancing, and long before I started dancing, a couple years later. But so during the dance, now this is a really important time. This is 25 years before the Mayan calendar was going to end on 2012. The most perfect aligned calendar, more in sync than all our modern calendars, and it had been registering since the last 26,000 years. So it was a very important time. People were doing ceremonies all over. Jose Arguelles had written some really powerful books, and all over the world people were doing ceremonies like they do today, but back then it wasn't as. So we're groundbreaking, to be part of that. It was beautiful. So they're dancing in the day, they're dancing in the night, half the night. It's under the stars, which was only some dances had done that. Most of them were to the sun all day, and you rest at night. So at one point, we inside the circle of dancers, there was like 50 or 60 or so, and drums are pounding, and eagle bone whistles are blowing off. and blowing these sacred eagle bone whistles. And this lady and I, it was our turn to go down and support from the camp. And you have to stay on the outside of the circle because it's another dimension inside the circle. Outside the circle, the supporters are there. And we dance, we give them energy, give them strength. So all of a sudden, there's clear sky, stars. We saw this single cloud just sort of slowly drift over, and it was kind of circular, noticed. And it got up there, and so her name was Diane. She was from Chicago. Just two of us at that point, and we look up, and all of a sudden it was like raining on us. It was like misting on us from this cloud. It was like, it was like, wow, do you feel that? You feel that energy? It's like, oh my gosh, what is it? It's beautiful. And all of a sudden, the dancers let out just like screams and hollers, and they're like, wow, 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 and they're all looking up. Their hands are up. They're like, oh my god. And we didn't know what happened, and so after the round ended, after you dance for a couple hours, they rest for a little while, and they go back dancing. And so the next day, Mary Thunder, and her elders called her Thunder. So if I say just Thunder, that's because her elders, that was part of her Indian name. They would call her Thunder because she was such a spokesperson. She could let it rip, She could talk with the best of them. So she came back to the camp, and she said, I got to tell you guys what happened. I'm not supposed to. They said, elders said, don't tell. But she said, I got to tell. She said, when we looked up, and that cloud had come over, and when we looked up at a certain point, it was like when they say, when you get the dance step right, when you get the drum beat right, when the energy's just right, you're going to have a vision, individually or collectively, and people pass out. They have these visionary dance. Besides a dance to pray and offer yourself, and you pierce the skin, and you offer yourself for the prayers for the world and for the reasons you came there. It's totally the most sacred dance, most powerful dance in the world, the sun dance. So she says, right when we looked up, she said, it was a saucer. I swear to God, it was a perfectly silver saucer, and it was like no more than like 500 feet, 1,000 feet up. And the lights were spinning around. It was this pure silver saucer. They could see it in the dark. It was unbelievable. They're like, oh my God. And just then, I don't know how long it lasted, not long. They were cheering for, I guess, a minute or two. And then, I don't know I can't remember how it ended. Did it disappear? Did they stop dancing? I mean, I think everybody was in shock. But that happened. So, yeah, these things definitely transpire. It's well known that Mount Shasta out there is a dimensional portal realm, one of the most sacred sites in the world. And there's the etheric cities in few etheric cities around the world that the masters somehow are there, become etheric cities. And underground, there's a reality called the inner earth civilizations that have been there for thousands and hundreds of thousands of years, and they live in peace. And there's this one supposedly under Mount Shasta called Telos, and it was supposedly the remnants of Lemuria, Atlantis and Lemuria, that was supposedly in the Pacific or wherever, that had been destroyed, or cataclysm, whatever, however. But so these things those are legends. We don't know that stuff. So, but I will tell you what happened. So we went to Mount Shasta, first time ever. We went up on the mountain, and she said, something's going to happen here. She was a total visionary. She was a total Ayaska. She was given the title of Ayaska in Lakota way, spirit speaker. She was given many initiations from the elders. Not to mention she had a death experience, a heart attack, and died on an operating table in 81. She's a fascinating lady. She lived in two worlds, barely in this world. We had to drive for her, like the elders. You always had to have a driver because they were having so many visions in the passenger seat. They couldn't drive. They were half in this world, half in the other, or more in that world. So I drove. I was a driver for 16, 20 years. So she said, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. And she was a normal person. I mean, she had a lot of fear. She had a lot of worries. She was nervous a lot about things. It was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And she was funny. She was totally hilarious personality, amazing. Our friend Sparky called her back then, the Native American Whoopi Goldberg. Native American Whoopi Goldberg. And that's when Whoopi Goldberg was funny and doing movies and comedian in the beginning. I don't know where she is now. But, so we got up there and she says, okay, I'm going to walk over into this valley. We're way up on the mountain somewhere. We heard about this sacred place and all the beautiful things that happen. And she says, my friend Jude, one of the girls with us, we had like 4 or 5 people with us traveling at that time. She said, Jude, come over with a notebook. I want you to, or no, just come over and sit by me at that time. She said, something's going to happen. She went over there. We took a blanket. We laid it down, a pillow. And she said, you all leave. Go on. Go out of sight. And she lay down. And Jude said she immediately went to sleep. She lay down. And Jude just sat there about 20 feet away. And Thunder slept for like 45 minutes. And she got up. She goes, okay, we can leave. We got in the car. She's always talkative. She wasn't talkative. We went down. She said, we would stay in motels. We got this nice motel that had a hot tub. So she goes, okay, Jude, you're going to be the scribe. And we all got in the hot tub. And she told the story what happened. She said, I was drawn to sleep. I was pulled asleep. And as soon as I asleep, I was awake. I was sitting there conscious, but I guess I was asleep. And this man started walking out of the trees, this distance to me. And he was glowing. He had robes on. He was beautiful. He had hair on his face. And he was like, and she said it was Archangel Gabriel. That's what she says.